Five Nights at Freddy's 1 is a modern classic. It's something that should be studied in every school, like To Kill a Mockingbird, except with more dead kids and less racism. It's the first game in the Five Nights at Freddy's series, and it truly was something exceptional. This game was the start of the future multi-million-dollar franchise that is Fnaf. But there's something different about this game when compared to the others. It wasn't as lore-heavy as its sequel, it wasn't as gameplay-heavy as Custom Night, and it wasn't as diarrhea green as Fnaf 3. Yet, it had something that made it stand out among all the other horror games that came out before and after it. But before we get into it, I want to take you back to a time where Fnaf was something completely different than what it is today. 2014, only one game in the soon-to-be series, no movie, and hell, not even any plushies being sold at Walmart at this point. I was nothing but an eager middle schooler exhilarated to finally go home and hop on my Xbox 360. I go straight to YouTube first, and there I saw it, the first Markiplier Five Nights at Freddy's video. A video I'm sure millions of people have seen at this point. It was like the Kim Kardashian sex tape, except no penises were involved. Point being, it was popular, and it was beautiful. Being introduced to Five Nights at Freddy's for the first time and seeing the simple but creepy take on a horror game, I was enamored by it all. Seeing the four iconic characters for the first time and just how eerie they all looked. Chica frightened me the most, mainly because of her big ass beak. I was scared that she would pop an eyeball out with that thing. Anyways, rewatching this series all these years later is like taking a shot of straight nostalgia. I mean, there's so many memorable moments in Mark's playthrough. But what is the gameplay of Fnaf 1? Well, as I said earlier, it's simple. As simple as a point-and-click game. You're a security guard working the night shift, stationed at a family pizzeria, and your job is to watch the security cameras to see if there's any anomalies occurring throughout the night. You're given a tablet in your very own cushy office. I mean, look at this place. A tablet that has all the cameras inside the building. As you scroll through the cameras, you may notice that the animatronics get a little quirky throughout the night and may wander around. They might also try to get into your office and scream at your face like a New York crackhead. So, to prevent that from happening, you're gonna want to watch your cameras and your blind spot that's in your office to see if they're close by. And if they are, you better shut that door tight or you're gonna see a screen of Freddy with an eyeball drooping. You try to last until 6 a.m. where you hear the joy of children's laughter at the end. You rinse and repeat for 5 nights, where each night it gets progressively harder. Pretty simple, but what makes it so great? During each night, you may hear ominous sounds. The ambience and atmosphere in this game is unparalleled to any other horror game. It's just so good. One of the major reasons why I adore this game. It sends a shiver down your spine that travels all the way down your nutsack. It sets the mood right off the bat. During your nights, noises that are constantly playing are the office fan and light bulb static. Also the static that plays when going to each camera, indicating that these cameras have poor reception. These noises stay around for the duration of the whole game, and also reminding you that this place is a shithole and has not been kept up to date. Little details like that add so much to the game without really doing anything at all. Then there's also the noises that the animatronics make, like Chica bumping into pots and pans when going through the kitchen, trying to get a Twinkie or something. Or how about Freddy's laugh that constantly plays during the 4th or 5th nights, and the sound of a child that's constantly laughing at you. Little shit. The groaning sounds that you can hear when one of them is inside your office. All of these sounds putting the player in a state of being unnerved, but none more than the red herring ambience that plays occasionally throughout the 5 nights. Sounds that are just there to unnerve you, like this. Unsettling, huh? My personal favorite being this merry-go-round sounding one. I mean, if I was working at this place and heard all that, I would have taken a dump in a Freddy suit and run out of there, never to be seen from again. All of these sounds are just iconic today and what horror developers should aim to achieve when designing their audio. Seriously, what Scott Cawthon managed to accomplish with the ambience/atmosphere is just incredible. Hats off to this sexy stud. But let's talk about the setting for just a second. Five Nights at Freddy's 1 is obviously a take on the Chuck E. Cheese style locations that were all over the US, predominantly taking its inspiration during the 80s and 90s look, with the tile flooring and old school 80s carpet. One bad spill and it's gonna stink up the place forever. Even with the way that the animatronics look as well screams retro. How big and clunky these guys look is a testament of their time. Many people are freaked out on how the Chuck E. Cheese animatronics look, describing it as an uncanny valley look. And Fnaf 1 did a great job in designing the characters to not make them look like nightmare creatures, but something you would actually see in a family restaurant. It's a perfect example of how something that's not supposed to elicit fear does so. There's children's drawings all over the walls, which is not inherently creepy, does elicit fear when in contrast to this dark and dreary location. Something that's supposed to bring happiness, brings the opposite. Just this place in general looks off, like how the lighting creates these ominous looking shadows. You're not really able to see much, but what you do see conveys a setting that's both sinister and creepy. Even slight changes in the setting, like these heads that originally were left untreated, all of a sudden looking at the camera and thus at you. This game creates a great notable setting without going to the extreme and putting blood and guts everywhere. Still, what little information do we have of this place? Each night we get a phone call that informs us of the lore of this place by a man named Phone Guy. Creative, huh? He tells us that these animatronics move around throughout the night without being ordered to. He also goes on and talks about something called the Bite of 87.
Is that the Bite of 87?
This was really the only major lore that is explicitly told to us in the game. Other than that, we would have to infer on what's going on in this place. Just something called the Bite of 87, saying that they view you as a metal endoskeleton and would try to put you in a Freddy suit. The only things that would remain of you would be your popped out eyeballs and teeth, looking like Jim Carrey in no time. Throughout the next couple of nights, he just gives us some gameplay tips, like to check the blind spots next to the doors and to check on Foxy occasionally. It's not until night 4 where we get a little more lore from him. On this night, we hear a distressed Phone Guy congratulating us about lasting this long. Sounds of banging on the door are heard, much like that of Foxy banging on our door, but also groaning as Phone Guy wonders what's really in those empty suits. I guess I'll find out here soon. We then hear Freddy's lullaby as an animatronic jump scares him and the phone call ends. The last of 5 Nights at Freddy's 1, Phone Guy. Night 5 and definitely the most sinister phone call. All that's heard is this unintelligible gibberish that's playing as it's capped off with 3 fast jump scare sound effects. Sounds pretty cute, doesn't it? Many people believe it's from a book called Autobiography of a Yogi, but played backwards and a lot more audio filters added to it. You make of that what you will. But we get more information about the lore outside of the phone calls. On certain occasions, if you look at Cam 4B, you can see up to 4 different newspaper articles where the rules of safety posters usually at. Although we're not given much, it's enough to tell us that this place has a secret behind it. It reveals that 5 children were lured into a back room by a man in a mascot suit, never to be seen from again. You could probably guess where the bodies ended up, as the following newspaper alludes that there's a foul odor coming from the mascots. Interestingly enough, it says that the culprit has been charged. Who can that be? The final newspaper says that the beloved pizzeria is shutting down its doors, as no other company is willing to buy this black mark of a place. There's also Golden Freddy and how impactful his presence was in this game, only occurring every once in a while. If you go to a certain camera, a poster of Golden Freddy would appear. This would then activate Golden Freddy to spawn in your office, and if you stare at him too long, you'd get jump scared and he'll crash your game. Spooky. And really, that's all the lore that's given in this game. Short, sweet, and oh so memorable. If this was just a one-off game and that's all we got, I would be more than content with it. It will leave a long-lasting impression, but the other games added a lot more lore to the series. I'd even mention the many Easter eggs that are in this game, like how the posters change in the other hallway to look like a crying child, or the different character screens that we could see. Easter eggs that show just how much care and polish was put into it. Several other Fnaf games followed after this one, blowing up the series into what it is now, with tons of books, merch, and even a blockbuster movie, which was alright. But Fnaf 1 laid a phenomenal groundwork where the future games would later expand on. Although I may not agree on what they did with the series later on in its life, I do appreciate them trying to do something different. But 5 Nights at Freddy's 1 is just so remarkable, it holds a special place in my heart. That's all I gotta say. Peace out and have fun. Like and subscribe.